Adam stepped into frame, adjusted his tie and prepped his hair. Quite a remarkable transformation considering that a mere hour ago he was lounging on the couch, eating Doritos, watching Futurama snuggled up in a onesie. But here he stands, presenting a false image to the masses in the hope that people will take him seriously. Yeah, right. If only they knew about what he had done in the past. So many run-ins with the law.
No, they do not need to hear about this.
14 counts of public urination.
Ha! It's 12. For 2 of those, nothing really came out. So just indecent exposure instead. It's grand. Anyway, narration is a powerful tool when used correctly. It provides context for a scenario or backstory for a particular character. And some games use it quite effectively.
Narrators have been around in gaming for a while. You can go all the way back to the legacy of Cain Blood Omen to hear Cain pass on information and offer some perspective.
I would find my slayers and send them back whence I came.
What is quite interesting is that the majority of the narration is done during gameplay, and when looking at the history of narration in games, very few actually do this. God of War has a narrator, but mainly during cutscenes or when the player has no control. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time story is told with the help of a narrator, but not really during gameplay. I have found only a handful of games that use a narrator like the one in Blood Omen, which is remarkable considering what a powerful storytelling device it is. One of the flagships of how to do narration well is the Max Payne series. It was the first game I played as a youngster that drew me in by using the protagonist's thoughts to push the story forward. The main character wore his heart in his sleeve and upped the stakes of everything I did. I was no longer just looking for someone because that was my objective, I needed to find them to help Max. The delivery of the narration is also important.
Cogniti would be moving fast. I don't know about angels, but it's fear that gives men wings.
His gravelly voice and complex metaphors lend itself to the film noir feel, probably more so than any other aspect of the game. Over the course of my playthrough I got to know Max, his motivations, his fears, and because it was all told in first person, it felt more personal.
The pills would hold the pain back for a while.
Supergiant Games' Bastion has one of the most endearing narrators. A smooth talker with an ability to provide luscious descriptions for each of the locations visited, as well as humanizing the enemies.
It's a gas fellow, forced out from underground.
What I find remarkable about Bastion is that throughout the 8 hours my first playthrough took me, not once did I tire of hearing the world around me described in such romantic detail. Everything seemed even more magical than the aesthetics could convey by themselves. While the gameplay was solid, it was the narrator that kept me coming back. The unreal amount of time that went into recording lines for just about anything the player could do is impressive.
And then he falls to his death. I'm just fooling.
Dear Esther, a mod for Half-Life 2, strips away most of what is deemed conventional gameplay and makes the story the focus. Due to the unidentified narrator's poetic style of speech and the mystery of the broken yet connected narrative, I kept moving forward.
When he first landed here, Donnelly wrote that the herds were sickly, and their shepherds the lowest of the miserable classes that populate these Hebridean islands.
Trying to understand what is going on is the challenge, not men with guns shooting at me or puzzles. The most fascinating thing about Dear Esther's approach to storytelling is that each playthrough will yield a different thread of story fragments. There are certain points that are fixed, but others are randomly chosen from a selection. This makes each playthrough unique. It also means that multiple playthroughs are needed to hear the entire story. Dear Esther is not a game for everyone, but I think it is interesting to remove almost all gameplay mechanics and put the focus on an ambiguous story that is being told by a narrator.
We will paint a moon over the Sanford Junction and blue lights falling like stars along the hard shoulder.
Now, my personal favourite, the all-knowing, all-important, fourth-wall-breaking narrator from the Stanley Parable. This man has a very deliberate story that he is trying to tell, and the player can either obey and see where it goes, or ignore his directions altogether, frustrating him to no end.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
The game spirals into chaos while screwing with him just to get another humorous reaction. Thanks to over 15 endings, there are plenty of opportunities to derail his perfect story. The narrator is the star here, as he turns in quite a memorable performance, making the Stanley Parable one of the funniest games I've ever played.
And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
There are a few others like Call of Juarez Gunslinger and Thomas Was Alone, but still, the amount of games with a narrator present during gameplay are few and far between. And I think that's a pity. It's not easy to pull off and it's not for every game. But when your actions are made all the more important by a befitting narrator who consistently fleshes out the world, it can elevate a game by adding an extra layer to its story. At least, that's what I think. Thanks for watching and take care. Dumb as fuck.